Bienvenue les amis dans ce dernier épisode de la série des Dessous du Trucage. J'espère que vous allez tous très bien. Et qui dit dernier épisode, dit épisode spécial, parce qu'aujourd'hui on reçoit deux nouveaux invités qui vont nous parler des mesures à entreprendre ou à renforcer pour lutter plus efficacement contre les manipulations sportives. Et sans plus attendre, on retrouve tout de suite Chiel Warners, puis ensuite Norbert Rubicsek, pour qu'ils nous parlent un petit peu plus d'eux et de leur vision du futur de la lutte contre les manipulations sportives.
Welcome, Real. Thank you to be here with us today. It's a pleasure to have you in the last episode of the series Dessous du Trucage about the solutions to fight more effectively about match fixing. So thank you. To begin with, can you tell us more about your heart and your career, your experience in the fight against match fixing?
Yeah, thank you, Enzo, and thank you for having me. So my career in match manipulation or match fixing, whatever you call it, is fairly recent. I started out as a professional athlete, decathlon. Trying to combine 10 different track and field events. I went to the Olympics in 2004. Always been quite active off the field as well. Decathlon is not something you grow rich from, you retire from, in that sense. So studying has always been a big thing for me. I studied tax law, so I'm a tax lawyer by training. And also been quite active off the field around sports. So I never had the ambition to become a trainer or whatever, but I was raised that if you have an opinion about something, it's fine to voice it in a respectful way. But also, if you get the chance to do something about it, you should take it. So don't only complain, but also try to fix the problem. And as an athlete, you run into a lot of things you see in federations or within your NOC, within the National Olympic Committee, that you think, okay, maybe this could be done a little bit better from the athlete's perspective. So that led me to doing a lot of work in athletes representation. So I set up the athletes commission for the track and field federation in the Netherlands and chaired it. I was, I think, 11 years part of the NOC athletes commission and chaired that for a while. I've been in the WADA athletes commission, so working anti-doping. And from that also there was the next evolution was to be a board member of some of the federations. So I've been a board member of our track and field federation, the NOC. I'm a board member now of a safeguarding organization. So for me, it's trying to improve things in general, but in particular from the athlete's perspective. And I've always been interested in the darker side of sports. So sports can do a lot of good, but there's also bad things in sport, as in the rest of society. So it's not that sport is bad. No, sport is a reflection of society. In society, things go wrong. So also in sport, things go wrong. But they are quite specific in the way they go wrong. So we're talking about match fixing, but there's also anti-doping, safeguarding. So I've always been interested in those kinds of areas to make sure that they don't happen. And sport is good, it's safe, it's clean for everybody to enjoy in the most pure sense. So I worked as a tax lawyer for a while. I worked for a couple of big banks in the Netherlands and outside of the Netherlands. And I was a little bit tired of the whole financial system. So at some point I quit my job in 2019. And at that point in time, I wasn't really looking for anything, but somebody approached me and said, yes, we got now the role of information coordinator, of head of the national platform. And one of the main jobs for that person is to make sure the governments, sports and law enforcement, basically in a nutshell, work together well. And those are very different blood groups, so they don't always mix. And on the field of match fixing, they decided we want somebody like in between, independent, to help them cooperate, to build trust, and hopefully also build a more structural solution for the national platform. So I wasn't directly interested, but I was interested because back when I was a board member of the NOC, we had already spoken about this role, and this was, I think, 5 years ago. So I was interested. So why did it take so long, and what became of it? And they ended up selling it really well. So the most interesting part for me is you get to build something. How often nowadays you get to build something from scratch? Most of the time you go into an organization that's already up and running, and you can maybe improve it a little bit, but to really rebuild something is quite unique. So for me, it was a good way to start, to get going, to build something toward a specific goal in a specific time frame. So I said yes, and that's how I ended up in in match fixing, or in the fight against match fixing.
Hey, perfect. Thank you. That's a very interesting career, and I think you had great time as an athlete. And so I understood that it's your career as an athlete that led you to want to protect sport by this way. Yes.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, like I said, sport is a beautiful thing. It can be beautiful. It did me a lot of good. It shaped me into who I am, I can safely say. But I also see the fact that not everybody has the same opportunity, but also there are threats that are threatening the beautiful side of sport, and we should take care of those.
So welcome, Norbert. Thank you to be here today in Amsterdam for this interview, for the last episode of the Dessous du Trucage series. It's a pleasure to be with you today. And before getting to the heart of the matter, can we tell us more on who you are, and also about CSCF and your career?
Thank you, and the pleasure is mine. So my name is Norbert Rubicsek. I am the director of CSCF Foundation for Sport Integrity, and also the director of CSCF Sports Integrity Group. I'm a lawyer and a former police officer. Spent 22 years at the Hungarian police. That most of the time with the organized crime related cases. I spent 8.5 years at Europol, the European Law Enforcement Agency. First as part of the Hungarian mission, and then at Europol I was a founding member of Focal Point Sports Corruption, which is the response, Europe's law enforcement response on sports manipulation related issues. And that I did it until end of 2016, and since 2017 I'm director of CSCF. So CSCF provides advice and do collaboration regarding integrity with organizations from the sports sector, whether it is sport organization, whether they are sport organizations or representing players, and law enforcement agencies and judiciaries, and also governmental sector and intergovernmental sector, and for lotteries, and also other organizations from business industry.
Okay, that's interesting. It's a nice career in the fight against criminality. And what led you to create CSCF Foundation?
A very good question. So, as I mentioned, I was the founding member of Focal Point Sports Corruption. That specific unit was funded to support the European law enforcement and other law enforcement agencies in their investigations on sport, on crime in sport. So we were tasked to manage to support these investigations. And what I could see that there are very, very knowledgeable investigators, but unfortunately just very handful of these investigators had in-depth knowledge about the sector of sport. So they of course know exactly how to investigate criminal cases, but the sector was pretty new. And this gave me the idea to start this kind of projects to give actually knowledge for law enforcement and also judiciaries to understand the environment of sport, and to understand this entire activity, to actually make the investigations properly.
What measures have you already undertaken to combat match fixing more effectively in collaboration with different stakeholders?
So for me, it starts with acknowledging that we don't know enough about the topic of manipulation or match fixing. It's it's an unknown quantity. We don't know how often it occurs, but also qualitatively, what sports does it happen? Is it organized crime? Is it within sport organized? Is it always betting related? So there's so many unknowns. We know bits, and we know from cases we've seen, from alerts we get from the betting providers and from the data companies, that things are happening, but we don't have a clear overall picture on the qualitative and the quantitative side. And that always leads to the discussion, okay, how big is the problem really? And how much should we invest to fight the problem? So one thing I've done, I've initiated together with Interpol and University KU Leuven, is a project to try and bring together as much as we know from different parts of the world, different sets of databases, on how basically the questions I just asked: how big is a problem, in what sports, etc., etc. Because everybody has bits of data. Interpol has got a good database. IOC has got a database. A lot of federations and data companies have databases, but nobody's putting it together and making it searchable. Or so that's a project we started this year officially. It's called Cosmos. It's funded by an Erasmus grant. So that's one thing. The other thing is on the national level, we've been so one thing that was lacking was trust. The national platform was quite stuck when I came in, because a lot of the partners, especially on the operational level, they couldn't or wouldn't really share information with each other for real reasons. Sometimes it's just legally not okay to share information, and all the data protection rules haven't helped in that. But also sometimes those same rules are used to not do something, which you maybe officially you could, legally you could. So it's a bit of a mix of wanting to and not being able to. So what I've did is I've basically broke it down to the basics. So what do you need to do when an alert comes in? So you basically only need 2 or 3 people. You need somebody from the sporting side to give it context. And you need somebody from the law enforcement side to also give it context. And basically what they should do is bring together all the bits of information they potentially have on either the club or the player or the situation or the MO, and assess, okay, is this something, is there something there? Is this serious? And if so, who is best situated to investigate this? So that's what we call triage. So that's what we do. So I have one person from police, I have one person from sports, plus myself coordinating, and all the alerts that come in, we assess. And then from there we see, okay, is this strong enough to further investigate? And if so, who do we need to involve? Do we need to involve, for instance, it's called the IRS police, so the tax police, so to say it in such a way, or do we go to betting providers because they have more data potentially, or it could be anything. So I think those are 2 concrete examples of trying to make things better from the practical sense, because I think one thing that was lacking in the Netherlands is the link between the people deciding on strategy and capacity. So how much money and people are we going to involve in the fight against match fixing? They weren't really informed by the people in the operation. So basically people in the know, okay, how big is the issue, or how is what do we need to actually be effective in fighting against it? That translation from the operational to the strategic wasn't really made well. So I think we are doing this better now. And something to add to this, we are not the only national platform, as you know.
Yes.
There are a lot of them around the world, and they come together in the Group of Copenhagen, which is the network of national platforms. And the national platform is something that comes from the Makkelen Convention. Under the Council of Europe. So working with the Group of Copenhagen and the Council of Europe to also to help share experiences, share alerts, basically help each other out. That's something I've put a lot of time and effort in, also together with my French colleague from the national platform there. So he's chair and I'm vice chair of the group of Copenhagen. And I really believe that there's strength on the operational level in sharing data, sharing information, but also on the capacity building. Platforms come in many different shapes and sizes, and there's no one perfect solution for them. It also depends on the context, on the legal framework of a country, what's the best way to set it up. But it's really good to share experiences with platforms that are maybe a little bit more advanced, like the French one, but also some that are either exploring or just started. So I see really a lot of strength in that, and also to involve the partners like UEFA, FIFA, Interpol, GLMS, those kind of partners to help us inform just the whole landscape of combating manipulation.
Yes, it's very important to collaborate, and the group of Copenhagen is a good way to do this. And yes, our audience know well Mr. Signalez, because he was with us for 5 episodes, and it was very nice to see his expert point of view.
And what are the concrete results taken by CSCF, especially the Integrity Sport program?
Well, the program has been running for almost 4 years. We had 2 projects initiated, or 2 projects implemented. The first, both of them are EU-funded projects. The first one was called Integrity Sport Erasmus Plus, and the one which is which we just about to finalize is Integrity Sport Next. Integrity Sport program is to provide awareness raising session for law enforcement and judiciaries on how to approach sports manipulation and how to tackle sports manipulation, and also how to make cooperation in the domain of sport integrity and especially sports manipulation to make their investigations more effective. And that's been an idea for 4 years now. And what we did is that we partnered up with the partners in the countries. The country partners are from the law enforcement, of the judiciary, also ministries or organizations responsible for sports integrity. And this not only, so the entire project is has a multi-stakeholder approach. This is very important because exactly the point of fighting sports manipulation is that you have to understand the different angles of sports manipulation. Summarizing or looking back for the last 4 years, what we could see that we CSCF and our partners and supporting partners together, we were able to provide 13 awareness raising sessions in 11 countries. These awareness raising sessions are for 2-3 days for the stakeholders in the specific country, and where we are walking around the integrity sports manipulation from different angles. We were able to give these awareness raising sessions for more than 700 people. 400 of them were law enforcement and officers and judiciaries from 25 law enforcement agency and judiciaries. And in total, we had around 95 stakeholders involved in the last 4 years. So these are the numbers, these are the statistics. The results are, which I'm really proud that we helped, the project itself helped the partners in the countries to make changes. You could see that some countries were able to, after help of Integrity Sport, or with help of Integrity Sport, they were able to change their criminal code. Some of them were able to set up a separate unit for sport, dedicated for sport integrity issues. Some other countries, they were able to reshuffle, reorganize their national platforms, and also, which is really good, that they continue the education in their law enforcement agencies. So they made the Integrity Sport curriculum available for the law enforcement agencies. I think this is something which is a very good result, and I'm really happy result for the project, and it's a good addition for law enforcement and judiciaries to fight against sports manipulation.
Yes, thank you. And we saw that this initiative bring the different stakeholders together, and it helps to make the collaboration better. So yes, thank you. So does your foundation support the Macaulay Convention, which is currently the only international rule of law on sport manipulation?
Yes. Well, first of all, let's talk about yes, indeed. Besides the fact that I myself was one of the experts in building up the typology of the Council of Europe together with the members of the group of Copenhagen Council of Europe. I'm a true believer in this convention. I think this is something which is very important to follow. So Integrity Sport itself is mostly based on this direction, starting with introducing the typology of the manipulation, and indeed we have several partners who are actually the coordinators of the national platform. So so the project interlinks to the Macaulay Convention several directions.
You support the Macaulay Convention, but you are also making projects with Malta, which is currently the main obstacle, according some people, to ratification of this convention. Isn't this contradictory, finally?
Yeah, the entire situation is a little bit looks a little bit contradictory, but how I have to tell you that what I can tell you from my personal experiences, the operational approach of fighting sports manipulation. That's I can tell you, because we work together with different projects with different Maltese organizations, whether it is the Maltese Police Force or the Maltese Football Federation or other very important Maltese organizations. And what we can see that they put a lot of effort in fighting this phenomenon. So I know that it looks contradictory when it comes to the Macaulay Convention, but the fact is that they are very willing to implement the part of very dedicated to implement the convention in fighting sports manipulation from the operational perspective.
Thank you for your important view and your answer.
I'm going to ask you now the main question of this interview. What measures should put in place or trained to combat match fixing more effectively in the future?
That is the main question. So I think there's different perspectives. You have the national perspective, so that will be quite unique per country. But I think in general, you could say also from the international perspective, collaboration is key. And whether you call it a national platform, a national cooperation framework, as the IOC does, whatever you call it, there needs to be some place where people and information comes together to be assessed, basically. And then you can debate, okay, what kind of stakeholders should be in those collaborations. But I think the ones that are normally in there, which is law enforcement, the governments, and sport, those are the main blood groups, so to say, to constitute a national platform or collaboration framework. So I think that's one. It starts from the operation. I think that the translation, like I said, on the national level, this also goes for the international level. I think if you really listen to the people on the ground in the operation, they kind of know what they should do or could do to be more effective. But most of the time it's a political decision, either to do something with it, to give the money, give the needed capacity, or not. So I think you need to at least make sure that it is acknowledged on a political level that it is a serious problem, and you want to do something about it. And that could translate into either just money, simply, but also just giving it a bit of priority, because it's not always about money. There's already a lot of organizations need to do something about money laundering, for instance, or tax evasion. Those are subjects that come into play when you're manipulating, because you're not going to declare your earnings on a tax form. So we as a community that fights manipulation should also be smart about how we frame it. And I think the general tendency is to see everything in silos. So we have the silo match fixing, we have the silo anti-doping, we have the silo money laundering. And we want to solve it for ourselves instead of going and finding out where's the overlap with other areas, and where can we work together to be more efficient, because basically if you don't have to do the work twice. So I think that's also up to us. What would help is basically we speak in the same language, because now there's different definitions about manipulation, what is involved, what is not involved, different organizations that don't get along on the political level, because we still see that some organizations think we have the silver bullet to fight it, or we are the ones that are responsible or want to be responsible, and this is our area, but that they want to do it in their way. So I think having a true, how do you say it, speaking from the same definitions, from the same perceived problem we're trying to fix or to solve, I think that would definitely be helpful, because now there's too many different people working in different directions, or organizations working in different directions in a relatively small field. So that's just not effective.
Okay, yes. Do you think this kind of measures on improve the knowledge at the political level too is possible to make this in the near future?
That's an interesting question. So I think the political decisions are made in the near future that have long-term effects, and I think that's one of the issues about political decisions, not to be very insensitive about it, but I think yes, we if we agree on the principle that this is the way to go, that we should be more harmonized in that sense, and trying to get people together, which we are doing. So one of the working groups I'm trying to, I'm leading in the group of Copenhagen is on partnerships. So how do we work together with the partners we have, and do we have all the relevant partners? What can we give to them in the collaboration, but also what are we expecting from each other? Just to be clear on that. And I realize that's quite a Dutch thing to be very outspoken about this, but I think it does help to get clear how basically what the relationship is between the different partners working together, and it doesn't need to be formal, but just speak, okay, these are my interests, this is what is important to me as an organization or as an individual. I think that would go a long way in really understanding each other, and hopefully from there I think there needs to be a much stronger link between the operation and those deciding on what direction we are going with this topic.
Okay, yes, thank you for your point of view. It was really nice to exchange on this subject, and I really thank you a lot for this interview. It was great, and I wish you all the best for the future and the future projects of the different national platforms and all the different stakeholders. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Enzo, and thank you for spending the time on this topic, which is not high on everybody's agenda. So thank you for making it known to a larger audience.
So I'm going to ask you the main question of this interview. What measures should be put in place or strengthened to combat match fixing more effectively?
Very good question, and I'm smiling because it's not easy. I'd like to step back for at least two, three steps and seeing a little bit in a wider perspective. I would start, before I make any measures, I would start with education. we need to give more knowledge about what sports manipulation is and what can be done and what cannot be done. And until this is not done, it's really hard to say that we have a good solution to fight against sports manipulation. We have possibilities, but this is how everything should start. And the other thing which we have to also, it's just a basic before we go towards fighting, is to set up the mechanism of information exchange amongst the stakeholders of the domain. And when I'm saying stakeholders, it's from the athlete until the prosecutor, everything in between. There we have a lot of stakeholders who are very, very important role in fighting sports manipulation, and they all have to contribute to make a successful case. Whether we are talking about the athletes, we are talking about federations, but they talk about the law enforcement, talk about the betting industry. So there are a lot of stakeholders here who have to contribute.
Okay, thank you. So yes, the collaboration is a fundamental point to fight against this scourge. Do you think these measures of collaboration could be implemented in a stringent way in the future? Can we improve this collaboration in the future?
No, absolutely. Again, it's going to sound cliche, but we have to go to the same point of understanding, and this is something what we try to do with the typology. Just to make you understand what I'm thinking is that when we started to work on it, back at that time, when you were sitting at the table with the same with the members or representative of different sectors of the same domain, and you said one word, it was understood differently from the different stakeholders. So it was time to make a little bit of a structure that everyone is have the same understanding on the main definitions of sports manipulation, what sports manipulation is. And it was, so we developed and we are still in this process of understanding everything in this domain. And as soon as we arriving, the is never going to end. But until then, we can improve. And this is what we can, and I think we need. Otherwise, it's not going to. If we don't do it, then the fixers or the manipulator is going to be always one step or two steps ahead of us. So yes, indeed, I think it's quite important.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time for this interview, and I wish you all the best for you and for Integri Sport the next year. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Un grand merci à Norbert et à Riel de nous avoir partagé leur vision du futur de la lutte contre les manipulations sportives. Alors, pour résumer très rapidement, on peut d'abord dire qu'il faut vraiment mener un travail d'éducation. Il faut faire prendre conscience du danger que représentent les manipulations sportives aux joueurs, aux politiques, mais aussi finalement à chacun d'entre nous, parce qu'on va être tous unis autour de cette lutte pour la gagner, pour la remporter. Ensuite, on l'a vu, renforcer la collaboration et la confiance entre les différents acteurs du sport, donc ça peut être les fédérations, les joueurs, les institutions aussi, comme les différentes plateformes nationales qui luttent contre les manipulations sportives, et aussi les forces policières qui mènent les investigations sur le terrain. On peut aussi dire qu'il faut continuer de s'appuyer sur les données analytiques, sur la data, mais ça ne résout pas tout, donc il faut coupler cette data, ces données analytiques, avec des enquêtes qui sont menées par les forces policières sur le terrain. Alors c'est la fin de cet épisode, mais aussi de cette série, ce premier grand format de Foot Prime, les dessous du trucage. C'était un réel plaisir de partager ça avec vous, et j'ai vraiment hâte de vous retrouver dans la nouvelle série qui va arriver cette semaine. Alors je vous en dis pas trop, mais ça sera une série spécialement basée sur la Coupe du Monde. Donc voilà, on est en plein dans l'actualité. En tout cas, en attendant, prenez soin de vous. Allez checker notre Instagram et aussi notre nouveau site web. Et si vous avez aimé cet épisode, bien sûr, laissez un like, commentaire, partagez-la, bien sûr, ça nous aiderait beaucoup. Et ça récompenserait aussi tout le travail qu'il y a derrière pour vous présenter ces différents épisodes. Allez, en attendant, je vous redis à cette semaine et prenez soin de vous. Ciao!